Hello students, today we will see the chapter second, that is sampling and sampling preparation. So the sample and sample preparation, whenever considering food analysis, the quality of the food product, raw material or ingredient has a prime importance, and that quality should be maintained by the specification governed by that particular food. Some quality can be measured online by using specially designed sensors and results obtained in a real time. For example, color of the vegetable oil in an oil extraction plant. Generally, the question arises when performing the sampling. So what is a sample? The sample, it is nothing but the smallest portion that taken for the analysis are referred as a sample. While the sampling population, it is nothing but the entire lot or entire production for a certain period of time. In case of continuous process is called as a population or sample population. The process of taking samples from population, it is called as a sampling. So if the procedure is done correctly, the measurable characteristics obtained for a sample become very accurate estimation of the population. By sampling only fraction of a population, a quality estimate can be obtained accurately, quickly, with less expenses and time if the total population were measured. Then the next topic is selection of sampling procedure. So in the selection of sampling procedure, various factors to be considered. So first one is the general information, second one is the sampling plan, and then third one is the factors affecting choice of the sampling plan, sampling by attributes and variables, acceptance sampling, risk associated with sampling. We can see one by one. So the first one is the general information. So the first step in any sampling procedure is to clearly define the population that is going to be sampled. Once the sampling is conducted, a series of stepwise procedures from sample preparation, laboratory analysis, data processing and interpretation is needed to obtain data from the samples. In each step, there is a potential error will occur, and that will uh, reliably affects the final results. So these final results will depends upon the cumulative errors that will arise in each steps, okay, and that are described by the variance. So the variance is an estimate of the uncertainty. So the total variance of the whole testing procedure is equal to the sum of the variance associated with each step of the sampling procedure and represents the precision of the process. So the precision, it is the reproducibility of the particular data. In contrast, accuracy is the measure of how close the data with respect to the true value. Then next one is the sampling plan. So the most sampling is done for specific purpose, and purpose may be dictate the nature of sampling approach. So the sampling purposes vary widely among different food industries. However, the most important categories include the following, that is first, nutritional labeling. So in the nutritional labeling, there is a nutritional labeling is added to the particular food product such as low fat, high protein. So these are nutritional labeling. While selecting the sampling procedure, we should consider that nutritional labeling. Then the next one is detection of contaminants and foreign matter. So what are the detection and contaminants and foreign matter are present? We should consider that. Then statistical process control, that is quality assurance. Then acceptance of raw material ingredients or products, that is acceptance sampling, that means how much purity of the sample, we should consider that. then release of lots of finished products, detection of adulterations and microbiological safety. Then third is factors that affect the choice of the sampling. Each factor affecting the choice of the sampling plan must be considered in the selection of the plan. Once the purpose of the inspection, the nature of the product, the test method, and the nature of the population to be sampled are determined, then the sampling plan that will be provide desired information can be developed. So various factors to be considered. So first one is the purpose of inspection. So what is the purpose of inspection? After the purpose of inspection, we have get some questions, that is the given lot or given sample accepted or rejected, that it is measure average quality of the lot, is it determine the variability of the product, then the nature of the product. While considering the factor that is nature of the product, we should consider that it is homogeneous or heterogeneous, that's the question. Then what is the unit size, then what is the cost of material being sampled, and the next one is nature of test method. Is it the test critical or minor? Will someone become sick or die if population fails to pass the test? Is the test destructive or non-destructive? How much does the test cost is complete? Then the next topic is sampling by attribute and variable sampling. So the attribute sampling, it is nothing but the sampling which is performed to say that the given sample is accepted, given lot is accepted or not. Okay, so the acceptability of the population based on whether the sample possesses certain characteristics or not. The result has a binary outcome of either confirming or non-confirming. Then the next one is the variable sampling. In the variable sampling, sampling is performed to estimate quantitatively the amount of substances, for example protein content, moisture content, etc., or other characteristic properties such as color, which is on continuous scale, should be considered. Then the next one is the acceptance sampling. So the acceptance sampling is a procedure that serves as a very specific role. So to determine if the shipment of the products or ingredients has enough quality to be accepted. So the acceptance sampling can be performed by food processor before receiving lot of materials from the supplier or a buyer who is evaluating the processor's output. Lot acceptance sampling plans that may be used for the evaluation of attributes or variables or combination of both fall into the following categories, that is single, double, sequential and skip plans. In the single sampling plans, the decision of accepting or rejecting a lot is based on just one sample of its items taken at a random. These plans are usually denoted as NC plans, that N corresponds to sample size, where the lot is rejected if any more than C is the defective sample. If results are unconclusive, then second sample is also taken and decision of accepting or rejecting is made based on the combined outcome of both the sample. So multiple sampling plans are extensions of double sampling plans for which more than two samples are drawn to reach a conclusion. Means what, we have to repeat the procedure of sampling till we have to get a proper outcome. So this is the outline for which we have to, how we have to perform the double sampling method, where we have considered the 2 points, that is accept or reject, and continuously we have to repeat the procedure. Then the next one is the risk associated with the sampling. So there are two types of risk associated with the sampling. So the first one is the producer's risk and second one is the consumer's risk. So consumer's risk describes the probability of accepting poor quality population. This should happen rarely, nearly about 5% of the lots, but actual acceptance probability of the consumer risk depend upon consequences associated with accepting an unacceptable lot, while the consumer's risk is probability of rejecting the acceptable products. As with consumers' risk and consequences of the error determine the acceptable probability of risk, and acceptable probability of producer's risk is usually 5 to 10%. Then the next topic is sampling procedures. So in that introduction and examples, first point, in the reliability of analytical data is compromised if sampling is not done properly. Okay, so for that IOAC describes the method, that is 925.08 describes a method for sampling flour from sack. The number of sacks to be sampled in a sample is determined by square root of the number of sacks in a lot. The sacks to be sampled are chosen according to their exposure. Sampling is done by drawing a core from the corner at the top of the sack diagonally to the center. The sampling instrument is cylindrical polished trier with pointed end. It is 13 mm in diameter with slit and at least 1/3 of the circumference of the trier. The second example is taken from the opposite corner. In the similar manner, the cores are stored for analysis in a clean, dry, airtight container that has been opened near the lot to be sampled. A separate container is used for each sack. For example, out of a lot containing 48,001 to 84,000 units, each weighing 1 kg or less, 48 samples would be selected. If 6 or more sample units fail to confirm the attribute of interest or sample of interest, then lot will be rejected. Based on statistical confidence interval, this sampling plan will reject 95% of the defective lots. Examine that 5% consumer risk. Then the next one is the homogeneous versus heterogeneous population. The ideal population would be uniform throughout the identical at all locations. Such population would be called homogeneous population. Sampling from such population is simple, as a sample can be taken from any location and analytical data obtained will be representative of the whole. However, this occurs very rarely, that apparently apparently uniform product will not occur. For example, sugar syrup, suspended particle and sediments in few places may cause population should be heterogeneous, and in fact most populations that are sampled are heterogeneous. Therefore, the location within the population where the sample is taken will affect the subsequent data obtained. However, sampling plans and sample preparation can make sample representative of the population or take heterogeneity into account in some other way. Then the next topic is manual and continuous sampling. In the manual sampling, what happens? The sample must attempt to take a random sample to avoid human bias in the sampling method. Thus, sample must be taken from number of locations within the population to ensure that the representative of the whole population is maintained. So, the liquid may be sampled by pipetting out, pumping out or dipping, while the manual sampling of granular or powder material is usually achieved with various kinds of probes that are inserted into the population at several locations. And the second is continuous sampling. It is the mechanical way by which we have to take the sample by automatic way by using some kind of device, auto sampling device, and it is used to take a liquid samples from the continuous production line. And continuous sampling should be less prone to the human bias than the manual sampling, as we know that whenever we are considering any auto sampler, so it should have some specific time, along with time it has proper measurements. That's why continuous sampling has very less error than the manual sampling. Then the next is statistical considerations. So statistical considerations are further into two parts, that is probability and non-probability sampling. Probability means they may have some kind of chance, okay, and from that we can describe the probability, while non-probability is based on various judgments, various conveniences. The analysis is done, that is known probability sampling. So the first one is the probability sampling. So it plans to prescribe the selection of the sample from population based on the chance. It provides statistically sound basis for obtaining representative sample with elimination of human bias. Means what? By using probability sampling, we have to minimize the human error. Okay, so there are various types of probability sampling methods. So first one is the simple random method. So in the random method, what we have know the number of units, how many number of population units are there, and these units are identified by some numbers. Then using random selection procedure, we have to take certain number from this identification numbers are selected according to the sample size, and that is nothing but the simple or random sampling. While the systematic sampling, it is used to when it is used when a complete list of sample is not available. At that time, the samples are distributed evenly over the time or space, such as on production line. The first unit is selected at random, and after repeated time interval, we have to perform the nth number of units for the analysis. Okay, and hence we have to define a time programming. That's why this sampling is known as a systematic sampling. Then next one is the stratified sampling. So in the stratified sampling, we have to divide the population, that is size of the population n, into various groups. That is, if size of the population is n, then we have to divide that particular population into exclusive homogeneous group, that is n1, n2, n3, etc. And then applying the random sequence or another sampling techniques, we have to take each subgroups. From each group we have to take a sample. Okay, so hence it is called as a stratified sampling. And then next one is the cluster sampling. In the cluster sampling, we have to divide the population into various kinds of subgroups or clusters, and then we have to select randomly the clusters, certain number of clusters for the analysis. Okay, the main difference between the cluster sampling and the stratified sampling is that in the stratified sampling, we have taken we have taken sample from every single subgroup, while in the cluster sampling we have randomly selected directly the clusters instead of individual sample. Then composite sampling is used to obtain samples from the back products such as the flour, seeds, the larger items in bulk. Small aliquots are taken from different bags or containers and combined in a simple sample that is used for the analysis, that is composite sample. Then the next one is the non-probability sampling. Non-probability sampling can be done by many ways, but in each case probability of including the any specific portion of the population is not equal, because the investigator selects the sample deliberately. So first one is the judgment sampling. Judgment sampling is solely at the discretion of the sampler, and therefore is highly dependent on the persons taking the sample. This method is used when it is only practical way of obtaining sample. Then next one is the convenience sampling. It is performed when S of the sampling is key factor. The first pellet in a lot or a sample that is most accessible is selected. This is called as a chunk sampling or grab sampling. Then next one is the restricted sampling. It may be unavoidable when an entire population is not accessible. This is the case if sampling from loader boxcar, but the sample will not be representative of the population. Quota sampling, so it is the division of lot into groups representing various categories, and samples are taken from each group. Okay, then the next one is estimation of sample size. So sample size determination is very important aspect while doing sampling. So sample size determination can be based on either precision analysis or power analysis. So precision and power analysis done by controlling the confidence level, that is type 1 error, or power type 2 error. For the purpose of this section, the precision analysis will be used and it will be based on the confidence interval approach and the assumption that the population is normal. So the what is confidence interval? So the confidence interval or confidence level is a range of values so defined that there is a specific probability that the value of the parameter lies within the particular interval or particular level. So the confidence interval for a sample mean is described by the following equation: x bar z alpha by 2 into sd upon square root of n, where x bar equals to sample mean, z alpha by 2 where z is the value corresponding to level of confidence desired, that is either 90%, 95%. sd, it is the known or estimated standard deviation of the population, and n is the sample size. So in the equation, z alpha by 2 sd upon square root of n represents the maximum error that is acceptable for the desired level of confidence. Therefore, we can write the given equation as E is equals to Z alpha by 2 into SD upon square root of n. Solve for n, so n equals to Z alpha by 2 into SD upon E bracket square. The maximum error E in equation 2 can be expressed in terms of accuracy, that is gamma, as E is equals to gamma into x bar. Then the equation 2 can be rearranged as follows: n equals to z alpha by 2 into sd divided by gamma into x bar bracket square. This is an equation to calculate the sample size. Then the next one is the preparation of the samples. If in the preparation of the sample, general size reduction should be considered. So in that, if the particle size or mass of the sample is too large for analysis, it must be reduced in bulk or particle size. To obtain smaller quantity of analysis, the sample can be spread on the clean surface and divided into quarters. The two opposite quarters are combined. If the mass is still too large for analysis, the process is repeated until the appropriate amount is obtained. This method can be modified for liquids by pouring into 4 containers, and it can be automated. The samples are thus homogenized to ensure negligible differences between each portion. AOSC International provides details on the preparation of specific food samples for analysis, which depends on the nature of food and the analysis to be performed. For example, in case of meat and meat product, it is specified in method 983.18 that small samples should be avoided, as this results in the significant moisture loss during the preparation and subsequent handling. Ground meat samples should be stored in glass or similar containers with air and watertight lids. Fresh dried curd and smoked meats are to be bone free and passed 3 times through a food chopper with plate opening no more than 3 mm wide. The sample then should be mixed roughly and analyzed immediately. If immediate analysis is not possible, samples should be chilled or dried for short-term and long-term storage respectively. Then the next point is grinding. So the grinding is important both for sample preparation prior to the analysis and for food ingredient processing. Various mills are available for reducing particle size to achieve sample homogenization. To homogenize moist sample, bowl cutters, meal mincers, tissue grinders, mortar pestle or blenders are used, while mortar and pestles and mills are best for the dry sample. Contact of food with bare metal surfaces should be avoided if trace metal analysis is to be performed. Addition of sand as an abrasive can provide a further subdivision of most food blenders are effective in grinding soft and flexible wood suspension. In colloidal mills, a dilute suspension is flown under pressure through a gap between slightly serrated or smooth surface blade until they are disintegrated by shear. Then the next topic is enzymatic inactivation. Generally, food products they are contain enzymes, and that enzymes will cause degradation or decomposition of food components which are to be analyzed. So the enzyme activity therefore must be eliminated or controlled using methods that depends on the nature of food. Heat denaturation or inactivate enzymes and freezer storage, that is minus 20 degrees Celsius to minus 30 degrees Celsius for limiting enzyme activity are common methods. However, some enzymes are more effectively controlled by changing the pH or by salting out. Oxidative enzymes may be controlled by adding reducing agents. So this is all about chapter 2nd. Thank you.